Hello and welcome to the Inner Game of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, Sarah. And as always, I am so excited that you're here. Today, we have an awesome conversation for you with Dr. Nicole Garritano, who is a fractional leadership advisor and coach with 15 years of experience in healthcare, academia, and executive leadership. She blends evidence based expertise with spiritual insight to help purpose driven women align their energy, trust their inner wisdom, and redefine success. After a personal health crisis shifted her path, Nicole now empowers women to release burnout, reclaim boundaries, and lead with clarity and purpose. And if you don't identify as a woman, that's okay. Please hang out because you're going to enjoy this conversation as well. Dr. Nicole, thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat today. I've been able to check out some of your other podcasts, so I know we are in alignment with the things that we love to talk about. And so I'm sure your audience will get a lot out of our discussion today.
Well, okay, so there's two places I want to start. We always love starting with people's human design when they know it,
Mhm.
and also your big three
Yes.
in astrology if you know it. So please share that.
Yeah, so I'm a 4/6 mental projector in human design, and I am a Cancer sun, a Pisces moon, and a Capricorn rising.
To be a mental projector with that much water in your big three must be a really fun time in your
It's
head.
it's really fun. It's really fun. Yes. Yes. Well, I'm so thankful I found human design to make sense of all the water, right? And everything running through my head as a mental projector because mental projectors are only like 3% of all projectors. So it's even rare in and of itself. And it did help me connect a lot of dots once I understood it about past careers, past relationships, just the way I was showing up in the world, and just the amount of conditioning that I was truly experiencing day to day.
Oh, I love it. So we're going to really get into this, y'all. Today we're going to talk a lot about human design. So if you are a newbie to human design, stick around. And also if you're a human design nerd, you're going to love this episode. But I want to just touch on a little bit of your story. You mentioned that you had a personal health crisis that shifted your whole path. You want to give us, you don't have to go too into detail, but
Sure.
tell us a little bit about this arc for you.
Yes, so it was March of 2017, and I woke up in around 4 a.m., and I just had pain shooting down, the right side of my neck, all through my right arm down into my hand, and, my background's in healthcare. I'm a doctorally prepared nurse, and this was not like a normal pain I had ever experienced before, and so very quickly, there was no way I could reposition my arm to get comfortable, so I'm, like, waking up my husband, like, "Something's not right, something's not right." We had a one-year-old, our daughter was 1 at the time, and so he's like, "Well, we need to get you to the emergency room," and, I was like, "But we can't because we have a baby in the room next door," and, I didn't wanna wake up my parents at 4 a.m., so pretty much laid there and suffered for 2 hours so I could get a hold of my mom, and then I'm like, "Can you come over here?" He took me to the emergency room. I ultimately had a herniated cervical disc, but with no known injury. The only thing I knew to be true was that I had, for the past month, been waking up in the middle of the night, chin to chest, grinding my teeth, and that happened on a Friday morning. So I spent the whole weekend having to lay in bed because nobody could do an MRI on me until Monday morning. You gotta love the healthcare system.
Mhm.
Without a true injury, there was no reason to do the MRI. So I laid up in bed all weekend listening to my mom and my sister and my husband take care of our daughter, and that just gives you, like, a hard stop. You have a lot of time to think about things. And I knew in that moment I had been people pleasing and saying yes to everything. I was running 2 programs at the university. I was on a lot of national councils and organizations. I was the president of one of them. We had adopted our daughter a year earlier. I never took a maternity leave, and I felt like the perfect storm had finally caught up to me. But being the typical type A that I am, I laid there that weekend and I thought, you know what? There are other women out there doing what I've been doing. They've been burning the candle at both ends, and they have nowhere to go. They have no one to help them. And so I made up my mind that weekend when I felt well enough, I was going to pursue coaching or helping women in some capacity to reclaim their voices, to reclaim their power. And that's what I literally started doing as soon as I felt better. The interesting synchronicity of that, since people usually love to hear the synchronicities, is that that same weekend when I was laying in bed, I'm right-handed, but since it was the right side, all I could do was use my left hand to poke around at my phone a little bit. And I had gotten an email about an entrepreneurship training, which I really hadn't been thinking about very much. I was still in academia and healthcare, but I'm like, this is interesting. So I read about it. I applied for it. Fast forward like 6 to 7 months. I'm feeling better. I'm through physical therapy. I've had injections in my neck. And I get an email out of the blue one day that says, you've been accepted into this entrepreneurship training. And I was like, wow, look at that. I set that intention laying in bed, and it's coming to fruition now. And so I really felt like that was my sign to go all in and to pursue the path I've been on.
That's amazing. It's really interesting, right? I'm thinking about all of those sayings that we have about like if you don't slow down, like your health will do it for you, your body will do it for you. Also that
Yes.
phrase like God sends a pebble than a boulder than a bus.
Yes.
And I think there's so many stories, especially for type A folks, where that is the trajectory, where it's like we don't listen to the small signs and the pings and the warnings and the little nudges. We will keep going until something catastrophic forces us to pay attention. I also I find, and I don't know if you find this in your work, but as a coach, one of the most common things that people come to me for, especially on the life coaching side and not the business
Yeah.
coaching side, is people who are in their sometimes it's their 30s, but frequently late 30s to early 40s, when they realize they built someone else's life. When they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I did everything I was supposed to do. I got all of the A's. I went to college. Especially if they have immigrant parents, right? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. I excelled. I got the career. Sometimes I got married, right? I got the house. I did everything I was supposed to do that was supposed to make me happy. And now I'm here and I have all of this success on paper and I don't recognize myself and I don't know what I like and I don't know what I am like. I don't know anything about me.
Mhm.
I know that I've checked all these boxes and now I have to blow it all up. And it is always such a reckoning moment to have that realization of like, uh-oh, I did everything I was supposed to do and forgot to do anything I wanted to do.
Yes. Yes, I see that in a lot of clients. I feel like even on the business side, I see that with clients where, because just like what you're describing, we fall into the culture of what we're taught in society or the culture of our family, and we check all the boxes and we do all the things. But then we go into organizations and businesses that have their own culture. And because we're already so well trained and conditioned to check all the boxes and do all the things, we go down the same path there. And so many times I'm sitting with leaders who are like, I don't even know how I ended up in this position, And so one of the things I do with anyone, regardless of where they find themselves, is I remind them they're in this time of great remembering right now. They get to remember who they really are. They get to remember what lights them up. They get to remember why they wanted to lead in the first place. And it always comes back to self leadership. Are we leading ourselves well first? Because if we're not leading ourselves well first, then it's very difficult, right, to rally the troops and lead anyone else. And so, part of what I do with the leaders that I work with is ask them to go on this inner leadership journey. It's like the hero's journey, but through the lens of their lived experience. So we can start to put those pieces together for them about how, yes, how they ended up where they are, but also along the way of that journey, what were the things that lit them up, right? What were those natural curiosities that they had? What are the things that they gravitate towards still on a regular basis? And how do we bring more of that into the present now to be interwoven into the skill sets and the gifts and the talents that they bring to their roles?
I love that. I think this is a great kind of crossover to kind of lead us into human design because I would be curious about how the different types and probably the different profiles, because like I'm a 3-5. And so I think I'm
Mhm.
always been like I mean, maybe a little bit more when I was young, because I have the 3-5 profile. For those of you who don't know, we're gonna get into all of this, is a martyr heretic. So definitely when I was younger, there was more of doing what I thought I had to do, especially to be liked, to be accepted. But the heretic part, I think for me kicked in younger than for most, because I was team screw this from
Mhm.
really huge. But I think that there are a lot more types that might be more prone to being the rule followers, the upholders.
Yes.
Um, so let's, before we kind of transition too deep into the nerdiness, give a broad strokes overview of human design in case anybody's listening who's heard of human design, but they don't really know what it is.
Yes. So I like to describe human design as like the ultimate personality test because everyone we meet has taken a personality test or you've taken some type of assessment, right? Somewhere where you've worked. And so when we think about human design, it's rooted in your birth information. So you take birth information just like you would for astrology. And then from there, we end up with a certain type in human design. Human design itself, though, is a synthesis of 5 different modalities. So it includes the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah or Tree of Life, our Western astrology system, the chakra energy centers, and then elements of quantum physics. So it's really an interesting and dynamic blending of some of these ancient modalities along with science. And so it's very intriguing. It sparks a lot of curiosity for people because it does go beyond what we're taught through personality assessments in general. But what it basically shows us when we put that information in, when I put it into my software, it creates what we call a body graph, which looks like an outline of a human body. And then it has energy centers inside of it. So it lets me see, as a human design practitioner, your natural energetic blueprint. So think of this as how you were designed to operate in the world. And what's happened to all of us is we've been conditioned out of some of our natural energy. So there is that deep remembering of this energy and then allowing it to resurface and be unleashed into the world again.
I love it. And so in human design, when you get your profile, you're going to have a type and an authority, and then your profile numbers. That's usually where, like, as
Yes.
deep as it gets. A lot of people just know their type, but
Yes.
you can go really, really deep. You can get into gates and
Yeah.
reflections and all
Yes.
kinds of. But even just knowing your type, your strategy or your authority is enough to really help people out. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what the types are and what the authorities are, and then we can get into like how this plays into entrepreneurship.
Yes. So the different types in human design, we have first off manifestors. They make up about 9% of the population. Manifestors are really here to initiate and activate other people. They like to inform us of all of their ideas. They have lots of ideas. They want to get those out into the world, but their energy is not designed to be able to execute on all of their ideas. They actually need other types to help them bring those ideas to life. Okay. And so, as a manifester, if you've looked up your human design, as a manifester, you're in alignment when you feel just peaceful. Okay. And you're out of alignment when you feel angry. And I mean, angry. Manifestors they get angry pretty quick. They're a little fiery. And then we have generators. So generators make up about 35% of the population. And I think of generators as they are here to like build the thing, do the thing. They have sustainable life force energy to bring things to life, to create things for us. And so when generators are in alignment, they feel very satisfied. When they're out of alignment, they feel frustrated. All right. Then we have a hybrid of the manifestor and the generator. So it's the manifesting generator, meaning if you're a manifesting generator, you are both here to activate people and inform them, as well as you have a lot of energy to get things done. And so when we think about manifesting generators, they're kind of our great multitaskers. They can have a lot, they can be juggling a lot of balls at one time. They actually thrive in that type of energy. And when they're in alignment, they're going to feel peaceful and satisfied. And when they're out of alignment, they're going to feel frustrated and angry. All right. Then we have projectors that make up about 20% or so of the population. Projectors are really here to be the wise guides for the other types. However, they need an invitation to be able to step into that role. So that's a little bit of a challenge for projectors because they feel like they're out there just waiting for invitations. But I always challenge projectors in terms of, but you're inviting yourself to things every day first. So you can't be too focused on the outside invitations unless you're paying attention to your inner invitations. So when projectors are in alignment, they feel really successful. When they're out of alignment, they feel bitter. All right. And then we have reflectors. Reflectors are only about 1% of the population, but they are our great evaluators. They absorb the energy of all the other types and then they reflect it back to the rest of us. And so they are really amazing at letting us know if we're on track, letting us know how we're doing. And they need a little time to do that. They need about 28 days, that lunar cycle, to really take in information and then give us good advice, right? Good guidance about what they're seeing. And so for reflectors, when they're in alignment, they're just really happy and joyful. And when they're out of alignment, they're just sad or disappointed. Okay. And so the analogy I like to give when I'm talking to people about this is if you want to understand how the types kind of work together, to get that mental picture. If we were all going to run a race, okay, let's say that whistle blows. Well, the manifestors, since they're able to initiate and activate, like they take off first. They do that first little sprint and just go as fast as they can. And then they pass the baton to the manifesting generator because the manifesting generator knows the shortcuts and can still be initiating, but make some headway and slip in and out between people and get ahead. And then they'll pass the baton to the generator because the generator can go for the long haul. They have that energy to run that race through and they cross the finish line. And when they cross the finish line, the projector standing there with the stopwatch is the coach, the wise guide who knew where to place everybody. And then we look up in the stands and there's the fans, and those are our reflectors. And they're either cheering for us, reflecting back to us that we did a great job, or they're quiet or they're booing to let us know that we didn't do such a great job. So that's a way to mentally kind of get a picture of how the types, when they are working well together, typically fall into alignment with each other.
I love that image. I want to say for people who are new to human design and you're hearing some of this information, and you also are familiar with manifestation or law of attraction, all of the types can manifest. I've heard a lot of people be like, "Oh, I wish I was
Yes.
a manifester." And it's like, "No, no, no. This isn't saying that only manifestors
Right.
can manifest in terms of law of attraction." And in your human design chart, there's also a place, the arrows. I love
Yes.
information that can tell you whether you are designed to be a specific or a non-specific manifester. So for me, I
Yeah.
always wanted to be non-specific. I would always be very vague when I was trying to call things in.
Uh-huh.
'Cause I was like, "I just want all of this or something better," right? Like, "I want an apartment like this." But my task when I learned I was a specific manifestor was to be like, "No, I want an apartment on this street, or this street with this kind of floor, with parking, with this, with this, with this." And what that made me realize is the more specific I got, the more doubt I felt about whether
Oh.
get what I wanted if I was that specific, and that was the inner work I needed to do because I am
Uh-huh.
to get very specific in manifestation. So I know sometimes people get it, they think that a manifestor or a manifesting generator is tied to your ability to manifest in terms of law of attraction. I just want to let
Yes.
you know, in case you're concerned, that's not what it is. It's a totally different thing.
Right. It's
Everybody can manifest.
totally different. Just think of them as the manifestors of ideas.
Right.
You know, I like to think of it as that's what they're uniquely designed for, is to have all these wonderful ideas, but those are ideas that need to be shared. And the only way the ideas can take concrete form is if the other types join in.
Get on board.
So they're like just think of it as a machine in the mind. You know, they're manifesting these ideas that need to escape them. They
Yeah.
need to get them out into the
So
world.
this is a great, let's talk a little bit about your authority and your strategy. So
Yes.
I have a manifestor student who's like very close to me, and he's a Sagittarius and a manifestor. So all of that fire and all of
Mhm.
the information. And his big struggle is with his strategy that he needs to inform people about what his ideas are and
Yes.
go better for him. And then I have also had two very close, like a self-projected projector and an auric projector best friend and a reflector best friend. And I'm a generator.
Wow.
So everyone calls me and says, "Can I borrow your sacral real quick?"
Yeah.
I'd ask my reflector friend, "What should we get for dinner?" And she's like, "We don't have a moon cycle for me to figure it out.
Yeah.
Just something. I
Just
don't know.
pick something.
Just pick something,
Whatever you pick, I'll evaluate it after we eat.
and I will decide whether or
Right?
not to go."
Yes.
So let's get into strategy and authority.
Yes. So the strategy is pretty easy to go over. Authority can be a little bit different, like you said, for each one. So, strategy, as you said, manifestors are here to inform. So they need to get their ideas out. Generators are here to respond, right? So you're responding to, but again, I'll come back to we're doing all these things with ourselves first. So
Yeah.
manifestors are also informing themselves every day. You, as a generator, you're responding to yourself every day, right? A manifesting generator is both informing and responding. So this is to yourself and to outside circumstances, other people in your life, situations that crop up. It can be from a huge, are we going on vacation and where are we choosing to go, to, somebody in the store drops an apple while you're shopping. Do you choose to pick it up for them or not? Right? Are you going to respond to that dropped apple as a generator, as a manifester? Are you going to initiate action to pick it up and inform the person that they dropped it? As a manifesting generator, you're doing both of those, informing and responding. As a projector, like I said, you're here waiting for invitations. And so, really paying attention to what are you inviting yourself into every day? Because when you're inviting yourself into things that are in alignment and flow, then the outside invitations start to flow a little bit more easily. So, that would be kind of an example of how projectors can manifest those invitations. And then reflectors are here with that lunar cycle, like we talked about. And that's for bigger decisions. They can function day to day in life, but they may feel indecisive, at times because they're completely, if you look at a body graph and look at all the little shapes in there that are the energy centers, for those of you listening that may not be as familiar, you're just looking at your own, every single one of their energy centers is white or not colored in, meaning they are like giant sponges just absorbing everything in their environment, from the people to the places, to all the different things that are going on around them. So there can be a lot of conflicting energy sometimes within a reflector. And so it's not that they can't make a decision. Sometimes they need to separate themselves from the energy and make a decision in the day to day for themselves. But definitely, if they're like making a big purchase, buying a car, buying a house, they do need that 28 days to not just reflect for themselves, but they actually collect information from people around them. Not so much to say, I'm going to do exactly what my friend tells me to do, but they need to evaluate the different information from different perspectives, imagine themselves in those situations to arrive at an aligned decision for themselves.
Love that. So one of the things that I found is that once I learned how to use my strategy and my authority, life got really easy for me. And I'm a sacral generator
Mhm.
with sacral authority, right? So what I'm responding to is my own gut yes and no, my own
Yes.
feeling of yes, I want this. No, I don't want that. The challenge with that is societally, we're trained to use our logic and use our mind. I have no authority
Yes.
there. I have actually, in terms of uncolored in, I have an open crown, open ajna, very psychic, can see everyone's perspectives, can see the pros and like people like make a pros and cons list. They will be equal length. I can think of a million different pros and cons for every situation. Where my real wisdom is in my gut yes and no. And I knew this about me before I knew it in human design, which is why my
Mhm.
business is called Intuitive Edge, right? Like my
Mm.
intuition, everyone's intuition, I believe, is their irreplaceable thing, right? No
Yes.
one can copy your felt sense of what's right for you.
Right.
And once I was able to get over like the all of the mental training, the way that you're supposed to prioritize logic and just go, yep, my gut sense of what's right and wrong is is the thing to follow. It got very easy, and I
Yes.
think that we have the easiest strategy. I
You do.
I really
You
think
do.
we do.
Well, And that's the thing. I think let's talk high level about the most popular
Yeah,
strategies because most of the listeners will have some of these. I don't want to get too in the weeds. We'll probably
no,
have a few listening that might have one like me. I'm a mental projector. But let's talk about the ones that are most popular first off, because I think that'll be the most meaningful. And then I do have some insights around that strategy brain connection
yeah,
that I like to share with my clients. So, yeah. So for you, your sacral authority. For some of you, if you're just depending on what calculator you're going to, it may say pure instead of sacral. But basically, that sacral energy center is colored in on your body graph, meaning when you make decisions, you are supposed to be, you're like an instant hell yes or hell no. You get a gut reaction to it's yes or it's no for me. And so that is, and it stays, the gut feeling stays with you. It doesn't, it's not transient. It doesn't come and go. So you can really anchor into it. You know, what I tell people with sacral authority is you have to honor your no as much as you honor your yes, because there's people that will be in the wobble still, wanting to people please a little bit. And so they'll know it's a no for them, but they'll still say yes, and then they'll regret it later. So, really getting in tune with, I'm going to follow my gut instinct day to day and see what starts to happen for me. And if you need to play with it in the small things. You know, like what am I going to eat next? Or which way do I want to drive to the store or to my friend's house or wherever you're going? And notice what your gut starts telling you. I always tell people play with it in the beginning if you're a little nervous, but then you'll start to gain evidence, right? Our human brains love practical evidence. So when we trust the gut and then we go do the thing and we have a good feeling and a good reaction after, something amazing happens because you chose to drive a different way and you saw something you would have never seen otherwise, then you have that evidence that you were really seeking and looking for. Then emotional authority, I would say, is probably the next most common. And so if you have emotional authority, your solar plexus energy center is colored in on your body graph. And with emotional authority, you're here to ride your wave of emotions before you land at a yes no answer for yourself. So, meaning, you may not always be able to make a quick yes decision or no decision. I like to think of it, it's taught that it's a wave of emotions, but if we think of our emotions more like a pendulum swinging side to side, you know, each day, imagine you're an emotional generator and somebody invites you to go to dinner that night. We'll keep it a really simple example. You have to respond to that as a generator. So your emotions are da, da, da. They're just kind of on the pendulum, back and forth all day, depending on circumstances. You get the invite and you're like, ooh, you start bouncing way up to the, this is exciting. I've been wanting to go to that new place. This is great, you know, and then a few minutes later after the text, you get a phone call, something else happens. And then you're kind of in like, well, I mean, I wanted to try that place, but I don't know if tonight's the best night. You know, I've got this other thing. I'm tired. Then you wait a little bit longer and your pendulum's more neutral. You're floating in that neutral area. Then maybe later that night, after you've had some time to yourself, you're like, no, you know what? I'm back up here excited. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go, you know, to that dinner. But you really want to give yourself time. So sometimes people with emotional authority, you may not need a lot of time, but if you're just in the energy of a lot of people and you're in a wobble, like you're just not really sure if it's yes or if it's no, separating yourself from the group. So, like walking into another room, running to the bathroom at a restaurant. And then once you're alone, you're going to let your emotions tell you, yes, this is for me. No, this isn't for me. And always remembering with emotional authority, it's okay to ask for more time before you make the decision. Um, so we have sacral, emotional. I would say splenic authority is pretty popular. I see with my clients. So with splenic authority, it's your spleen that's helping you make those decisions. And so the spleen, again, you do get an intuitive hit, but it's different than the one you get with sacral authority where you have that strong gut instinct with sacral authority. With the spleen, you're just going to get a yes or no in different, it could be different parts of your body. So it could be when something's a yes, you get like real fluttery and like excited in your chest. You know, it could be when it's a no, you get maybe like a sinking feeling in your stomach. But with splenic authority, it happens like instantly and then it's gone. So where sacral authority lingers in the gut, the yes or no, splenic is a quick hit. So, people with splenic authority, you have to practice. You have to be really in tune with yourself for a while to pick up on, well, wait, what is my yes in my body? And what is my no in my body? And again, I always come back to make this playful for yourself. Don't stress yourself out over trying to master it. Have you seen anything with splenic authority with friends
Well,
or
everyone
clients?
who's watching Love is Blind saw on the most recent Love is do you watch it? Do you watch it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know.
It's a silly show, but the most recent Love is Blind UK, there was a guy on there who was a spiritual coach, and he was talking about how he had to follow his spleen in all of his dating choices, and everyone was like, "What is this guy talking about?" And so all of the human design people I know were cracking up watching this guy talking about how he was following his spleen to make these dating choices.
To make his choices. I love it. I love it. Well, it's true. At least he's in tune.
Yeah.
You'll have to see how that works out for him on the show, right? But yes, it is. And so some of my clients that have splenic authority, they get a little frustrated sometimes in the beginning because they're really curious. They want to start leaning into this new way of knowing, and intuiting for themselves, as you were saying. And it's difficult sometimes at first, but it's there. It's just, again, it's that remembering, it's being patient with yourself. So again, I come back to, if you're wanting to try to use your splenic authority and you haven't had food issues in the past, always if you've had food issues, don't do these food examples. But if you haven't, those are like, you're going to get a snack. Just notice when you're looking at your snack selections in your pantry, what do you feel in your body about the different choices with splenic authority? Because you're going to get a quick hit as you look at each one or as you hold each one. So that's a great way to start to notice, just like maybe some objects in your home. Pick up the ones you really love that you already know mentally you love. It's a special gift from someone. Then notice when you hold it and you focus on it, what lights up in your body, because that would be a yes with splenic authority. And then pick up something you know needs to go in the garbage or straightening up, cleaning up. Hold that. You're going to get a hit somewhere in your body that makes you know it's time to pitch it.
Yeah.
And so, and that way we can make it a little bit easier for ourselves if we're struggling, with that inner authority. I know you mentioned self projected authority. So this is really only for projectors. Only projectors have self projected authority. So with self projected authority, you have to talk things through with a sounding board. So but you don't need to talk it through because you need advice. You have to talk it through because you need to hear yourself say it out loud to make a decision. And so, again, this can be, I have a few self projected projector clients, and this is challenging for them at first, but I always tell self projected authority clients get out your voice notes and talk to yourself in your phone, then listen to yourself back. This is even a great strategy for all the types, and I'll tell you why. Because scientifically, our subconscious mind trusts our own voice more than any other voice. So if you really have no one to talk to when you need to, talk to yourself, then listen to yourself back. You will glean so much, yes, practically in your mental faculties of your brain, but also you're going to get a feeling when you hear yourself talk. You're going to hear that tone.
And I
Makes a
would
huge
say for
difference.
all of the types that need to respond to something, just hearing
Yes.
yourself say stuff out loud, you will feel a hit of like, "Ooh, just hearing that back, I did not like that," or hearing that back, "That really makes sense to me and that resonates." You give yourself something to respond to.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Um, I know there's ego authority. That is very, very rare to have more of that ego authority. With this one, it has more to do with you really knowing who you are. You're making decisions strongly based in your identity. So, for any of these that are more rare, I also encourage you go look it up so you can get a really detailed overview. If we're talking, you're like, well, wait, I have one that is a little more rare. I've only, honestly, out of the hundreds of human design sessions I've done, I've only worked with 2 clients that had ego um, authority. And so it's a really different one to work with. You do get, it's more of the feeling you get in your body is around like your sense of willpower. Like how
Mhm.
strongly do you feel you could get that thing done, or how strongly or how strong and passionate are you about defending that idea? It's more of digging those heels in. It makes me think very Leo
Mm,
energy. You know what
yeah.
I mean when I think of that ego authority. And then myself, I'm a mental projector. Mental is also and it means environmental. So for me, I have no inner authority. I have no feeling that's going to pop up in my body. So I have to be in the right environments to make decisions. So, like, I have my office set up a certain way because it's kind of like my safe haven. And I have my chair across the room where I do my prayer and meditation time. And then I love to go out in nature, and I definitely know the environments I cannot be in. And so that one is very different. Like I said, though, it's only 3% of us projectors. So there may
Yeah.
only be one or two other people that would listen to this that may be a mental projector.
I have a
But
mental projector
yeah,
friend, and before we knew about human design, I always used to ask her like where she felt stuff in her body, and she would be like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have that." And then when we got into human design, she was like, "I
yeah.
told you,
See,
I don't
I told
have
you.
it."
Well, and I think the oxymoron of that is too, is that there are periods in life where we feel a lot in our body, but what we realize as mental projectors is we were just feeling all the feels of everybody else in our body. It really didn't belong to us. Our mental capacity does belong to us. So, in a strange way, with mental authority, you are relying on the brain, on the conscious and the subconscious in a little bit different way, but knowing you need to get into a certain environment to let everything meld in the mind so that you can come up with what you need to do. I also find for mental projectors, sometimes we do need a sounding board too to hear ourselves out loud to make the decisions. There's a little crossover there. But what I wanted to also make sure I talked to you about, because you mentioned it earlier, was when you're looking at the body graph, what I like to teach my clients is you're exactly right. Like, our strongest sense of intuition is whatever our authority is, but that's how we're intuiting for ourselves. But everywhere you're open in your body graph or not colored in, that's how you intuit for other people around you. So there's two different ways of intuiting. And you always, when you're making decisions for yourself, want to follow that inner authority, that primary way that you intuit for yourself. But when you're sitting with someone else, when you're guiding someone else, you really want to leverage the superpowers of your open energy centers. And so for me, since I'm completely open below my throat, I can feel into what they're feeling. How grounded are my clients? How is their heart feeling? Is it heavy? Is it light? How are they feeling around their identity, their emotions, their sense of work and purpose and motivation, and their physical well being? So that is one way I use my open centers to help my clients. And so I like to bring that up for people because a lot of times, if you're newer to human design, people think, oh, open centers, they're like sponges. Ugh, I don't want too many of those. That sounds horrible. But they actually are very powerful in our overall design. And so the other thing about making decisions, right? Because, like you said, we're all conditioned to make decisions from our brain. What I encourage my clients to do is we want our brains to be in relationship with our authority because our brains are amazing and they do a lot of great things for us. So we got to find the balance, right? We got to find the bridge between the two instead of just saying, well, I'm never going to use my mind again, or I'm going to try not to use my mind. So you kind of brought this up with the pros and cons list. So I always tell my clients, you know what? Let your brain go crazy. Let your brain do what your brain needs to do and get all the pros and cons out around a decision. And then after you have your pros and cons list, sit with that pros and cons list, tap into that sacral authority and read the list and notice how you feel in your gut about each item you wrote down. And some of the pros are going to move to the cons, and some of the cons are going to move to the pros. But when you've gone through that process, then you have a balanced perspective. Your brain has gotten to get out of its swirl and release the information. But then that final check-in is with your authority so that you know you're making a balanced, correct decision in alignment for yourself.
I love this. So I mean, we have talked about human design as an overview for so long,
Yes.
but let's really get into how does knowing how to work with your design help you as an entrepreneur?
Yes. So, I would say first and foremost, when you know your type really well, you just know your natural strengths. So you know then what's missing or where there may be gaps. And so even if you're a solopreneur, it helps you fine tune, all right, well, I do need, you know, a virtual assistant for this, or I do need maybe a little bit of help designing these flyers, or I know I need to outsource my social media because I am not designed to be creating that. I'm not leveraging my natural skills and talents by spending time on that. So I do feel like it gives people almost like a filter to run those activities, those tasks through to know this is aligned for me, this isn't. Now, there are going to be times, right, where there isn't enough money to hire out the things and you're on your own. But then what you can do is look at your design, notice like what lights me up about what I do in my work. Gosh, those are the things I can't wait to do every day. And then here's the list of things like there have tos. Somebody has to do them. It's going to have to be me for the time being. But this is where I tell people to energy stack their day once they understand their design better. Because when you understand your design and then you kind of know your energy day to day throughout your week, you're better able to schedule your activities, your task list, your to dos around your natural energy, knowing that your Monday energy may be different than your Tuesday, than your Wednesday, Thursday, and so forth throughout the week. So, I always tell people Friday or Saturday, take like 10 to 15 minutes, open up your calendar. Okay. Look at your calendar and notice what is on the agenda for the week ahead. Those are the things that are scheduled. They're slated. They have times attached to them. You're not moving those things around. But then look at your task list off to the side that you have to do that week and notice, oh, Monday I have nothing. Monday I'm lower energy anyway. Here's some low hanging fruit. These are tasks that don't take me that long. I'm doing those on Monday because it's going to match my energy. So if you're a generator, I'm going to respond to those on Monday. And when I go through to do the list, if I have sacral authority, I'm going to let my sacral tell me which task I'm going to do first. And you can do that for each day of the week. So what it does is it gives you permission to move things around in a way that really aligns better for you within your natural human design blueprint, but also in your practical day to day living because then when something comes up unexpected, you can look at it and say, you know what? I had to trade out the time I was going to do those tasks because so and so called and I had to go pick them up because their car broke down. Wasn't planning on that. Couldn't have predicted that on the front end of my week. But now I can take this task and move it over to this other day. So we don't feel like we're rushing, right? Sitting at stoplights on the way to get the friend, trying to still do the thing from our phone. So really reimagining what our schedules get to look like because there's so much conditioning still ingrained in us from going to school, right? Having maybe normal 9 to 5 jobs, just the structure of society. We've gotten very in tune to that. And so we're not always allowing our schedules to ebb and flow and really create a rhythm for ourselves week to week. So I would say that opens up a lot of doors, especially for entrepreneurs. And naturally, entrepreneurs are people that want to do a lot of things differently. They don't want to be in the 9 to 5 grind per se. But sometimes the scheduling piece, they'll default to it just because of that conditioning.
Or even if they don't, one of the things I find is we go into business for ourselves because we want to do things differently. And then we'll guilt or shame or blame ourselves for the ways that we're different. So we're like,
Yes.
oh, I actually do creative work best at night after my kids go to bed. And
Right.
right. And then they're like, oh, why can't I make myself work during the day, during business hours, da, da, da," as opposed to like, hey, you're actually the boss and you
Right.
can do
So you
whatever you want.
can do it
That's
whenever you
the whole
want.
point, is that you're the boss and you
Yes.
can do whatever you want. So if you work best on this schedule and that's what works best for your energy and your body and your creativity,
Right.
you could just set your week up to allow for that. Now, maybe you
Exactly.
can't work at night every night because you do have to get up in the morning and do other things,
Right.
but you could set aside a night or two that are your late night cram
Right.
sessions where you do the stuff that you like to do at night. And then you have
Yes.
later start days on your calendar and you have them blocked out. Like you're allowed to make it work however you want to make it work. That is one of the really common things I find with clients. Like permission is a word that comes up in my work a
Yes.
lot. It's like
Hmm.
you don't need anyone else's permission, but sometimes like you feel like you need someone else's permission to just be like, "Oh, this way that you want to do things, you could just do it that way. You're totally allowed to
Yes.
do that." And what if instead of wrestling with it and blaming yourself and being like, "Why am I different?" You could just
Hmm.
use all of that energy for just being like, yeah, I am different and therefore I'm going to set things up differently because I'm
Exactly.
the boss.
Exactly. It's like embracing your energy.
Yeah.
And when you stifle it, when you try to force yourself into those old rules, you're not as productive. You don't get as much done, right? During those creative windows, you're forcing yourself into like whatever you'd consider a normal routine for the evening, whether going to bed, watching a show, reading a book, when really you're missing out on lots of things that could have been sparked during that creative session and the time when it wanted to flow.
Yeah. I would also say I think an important and challenging thing for the generator entrepreneurs is just because you have boundless energy for your business doesn't mean you should do all the things, right? So like yes,
Yes.
you're looking at things you can delegate because they're not your strengths, but also putting caps on your work time so that you're
Yes.
not giving all of your time, all of your energy to your business. And you're like, well, I could do a few more hours. I could stay up late and get this done. And being like, no, no, I'm building in guardrails. I'm building in balance. I am going to close
Right.
my laptop at 4 or 5 p.m. a couple days a week and have an evening and go see my friends and do other
Yes.
things. It's
Yes.
like,
Well,
delegating because you get to have a life, not because you don't have the time or the energy to work. Because sometimes generators are like it's really easy for a
keep going.
generator to work 60 to 80 hours a week and be like, "Well, I wasn't tired." And it's like, "Well, that's not really that can't be the
Yes.
criteria."
But you could have filled your time other ways.
Right.
No, I appreciate that. And that's why I feel like the energy stacking is really helpful. I have a client right now I'm working with where she was so tired. She wasn't spending time with her partner. She wasn't meeting up with her friends the way she usually, she had done so many months ago. And so she implemented the energy stacking for herself. And the next week when we talked, she's like, oh my gosh, I have more energy. I went to wine night with my friends. I'm shutting my laptop at a certain time every night, and my partner and I are making dinner together. So it can happen fast. It's just we still have the beauty of looking at something concrete like a calendar, right? And letting our visual, like orienting visually to that calendar. But the way she's chosen, right? She actually made a block, like computer stops. Like she put that in the calendar, you know, and then she purposely blocked the time to be with her partner. So whether that's them making dinner, going out to dinner, chatting about their day, but that's why I feel like the energy stacking is important because she is shutting the computer when she still has capacity and energy to go do those other things. And it's about boundaries.
We're talking about energy stacking, but I haven't had you explain to everyone what it is. And it's interesting because what you call energy stacking, if y'all have heard me talk about, I think I did an episode about this, which I call it mapping your energetic wave. But
Hmm.
it's the same concept. So talk to us a little bit in our last few minutes about what energy stacking is and how someone listening can get started in trying to do it for themselves.
Yeah. So I would say if you want to start with energy stacking, carve out time either on your Friday afternoon or Saturday or Sunday when it just works for you, only like the 10 to 15 minutes. And have your computer in front of you if you need that. Have your calendar handy, whether that's on your phone or on your computer. And then if you still write your to do list or you like to type it, whatever you need that works for you. But you just want to, it's almost like a coffee date with yourself, a coffee date with you and your business. Because that's the other thing. I truly believe we're an energetic partnership with the businesses that we create.
Absolutely.
So, are you spending intentional time with your business? Are you asking the business what it wants to do in the coming week, or what wants to happen? So, think of it as I'm going to be in relationship with my business for 10 or 15 minutes on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And you're just looking at the week ahead. As I kind of said before, but you're just looking at the week ahead. You're noticing, okay, these are the things that are already mapped out, set in stone. This would be in the beginnings of doing it. Um, these are the tasks I have to do this week. Okay, where can I plug in these tasks on days that make sense around the things that are already scheduled? Then I also encourage you for like at least 2 weeks, notice what your energy is like day to day. It doesn't mean every Monday it's going to be the same. If you had a really big weekend, you might be lower energy on Monday. But if you had to lay around and watch Netflix all weekend, then you may have a lot more energy coming into Monday. And it also is very dependent on the projects we're working on and what lights us up and what doesn't. But track your energy for a few weeks so that what the ultimate goal is that over time, you won't already have things maybe pre-plugged in. You'll get to a point where you only open up certain times on your calendar for certain types of appointments or meetings because that's when your energy is best for that. So you're not so much chasing where you can stack the energy as you become more intentional around where you can stack your energy. But instead of thinking also of meetings as, okay, I have it on my calendar today to record this podcast, right? Um, Thinking about it as, oh, that time of day from 1 to 2 p.m., what is the energy I'm going to be able to bring to that podcast recording? Does that fit in really well for my normal flow of energy when I'm making myself available to people? Or would I not be bringing my best to that
I
recording?
don't offer guests, like, I don't record podcasts after 1 or 2 in the afternoon,
Hmm.
because I start running out of words. It like
Yeah.
when I record in the evening, I jumble my words. I struggle to articulate. I'm like, what is the thing I'm trying to say? I know
Yes.
it's best for me to do this type of work from like 10 a.m. until at the latest 1 in the afternoon. And so when people go to book podcasts from me, like that's what they're going to see open on my schedule. And
Hmm.
back to this permission thing. I also know some
Yes.
people where they block, if you have one-on-one clients, they block out
Hmm.
what days they see one-on-one clients and what days they are,
Yes.
this is a creative day, this is an admin day. Some people I've talked to get into this fear or scarcity feeling of like, if I limit what I make myself available for, am I limiting my opportunities or am I going to not be
Mm.
okay? Will I not make enough money? What if my clients aren't available then? And just to give yourself that space and that spaciousness to trust that your ideal and aligned clients and opportunities, part of what makes
Yes.
them ideal and aligned is that they want to work when you want to work. They're available on the
Right.
days that you're available, that you're going to find the right people, and that it's okay to structure your schedule based on when you're going to be able to do your best and give your best, and your business will benefit from that rather than feeling like you have to be available for everyone all the time or something bad will happen. Like you're going to be okay. Everything's going to
Yeah.
be okay.
Well, I would say on the flip side of that, for everybody listening, how many of us have really wanted to work with someone and we've gone into their calendar and maybe that we couldn't find an ideal time, but I bet we just kept looking and looking. And I bet each of us have even moved something on our calendar just to be able to book in with a person that we really want to work with. So I think we get to look at it through that lens too.
Yeah. And
You
I've
know,
written to people, especially with time zones,
hmm.
right? Like I have some people who are in Australia where they've written to me and they're like, I really want to do this program, but the time that you guys meet is 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Is there a way that we can do this work? And like, I'm always so glad when people reach out because I might open up something for them that's not forward
Right.
facing on my calendar, but I will
Yes.
want to make it work for that person because it's not our fault that we live in different time zones. Sometimes we just have to make
Exactly.
it.
Yes, that's when you just have to remember what's for us will never miss us. It might have to circle us a few times,
Yeah.
right? But
And
it'll
being
land
willing
when
to
it's
ask,
supposed to land.
being brave and
Yes.
willing to like open up and say, "Hey, I really want this. Is there a way we can make it work?" versus feeling defeated. So
Yes.
sometimes we have to just go out of our way to make the request. The worst
Right.
thing the person can say is no.
Yes, and in our calendar apps, you can even write in your calendar scheduling app or whatever you're using, put in parentheses, if you don't see a time that works, please email me and put your email address in. Because if they really want to schedule with you, then you're right, they will reach out and let you know what their conflict is. And then case by case, you can open your calendar because it will feel energetically aligned
You
and
have
within your
something to
energy.
respond to.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Dr. Nicole, this is so fun. Thank you for coming on and for talking about us. Where can people find you? Do you have anything coming up you want to plug?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn or you can find me on Instagram, and I'm just at Dr. Nicole Garritano. Um, right now, I have my Design for Influence package available for people. So this is taking human design gene keys and self leadership and giving you your own leadership style guide based on that information. So it's a comprehensive PDF style guide workbook, and then you also get a one-on-one session with me.
Oh, that's so awesome. And people can find out about it on your Instagram. We'll put the link in the show
Yes,
notes. Well, thank
yes,
you so much for being here. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please go follow Dr. Nicole and grab that guide and start applying these things to your life and to your business right away. It was so nice to have you here. Thank you so much.
yes. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
That's our episode for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I know there are so many things that you could be doing with your day, so many things you could be listening to, and it means so much that you are here in this community. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment, share it on social media, and tag me at Intuitive Edge Coaching. Share it with a biz bestie who you think needs to hear it and will appreciate it. And take a moment to to subscribe, and to leave a 5-star review wherever you are listening. It helps me grow this show, and it helps us grow and sustain this brilliant community of entrepreneurs dedicated to doing the inner work. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, love you. Bye.